The aircraft carrier Theodore Roosevelt arrived today in the North Arabian Sea and, along with 7 other U.S. warships, is prepared for a possible high-sea standoff with Iran. Senior defense officials tell NBC News that a convoy of freighters suspected of carrying weapons appears headed from Iran to Yemen to arm Iranian-backed Houthi rebels.
The Iranian government is playing games, war games, as they appear to be daring America to pull a trigger off the coast of Yemen. Not what one might expect of people we're negotiating with at the moment. Then again, this is the leadership that believes no life is good unless it features dead Americans. The arena lines have been drawn, so let's get to it. She is the editor-in-chief at Politichicks.com, 7th-generation Texan, fears no issue nor icon, Ann-Marie Morrell, joined by host of the McGraw Show, mornings at KTRS Radio in St. Louis, Missouri, McGraw Milhaven. I thank you both for being here today.
You betcha. Thanks.
Happy to be here.
All right, Ann-Marie, here you go to you first. The Iranians basically seem to have drawn another line. This is the state that we were told really wanted to be friends again and wanted to get along with us. But are they daring us to fire, and are they trying to embarrass us in front of the world?
Of course they are. And as you said, the fact that they supposedly need us for their nuclear capabilities is astounding. If we can't trust this country on a boat on the water, why are we trying to make a deal that could empower them to obliterate the entire world? It's very strange.
Here we are, too, McGraw, looking at the State Department saying they're not going to rule out a $50 billion signing bonus for Iran, is what they're calling it, for agreeing to a nuclear deal later on this year. Let me see if I have this right. We're willing to give them $50 billion plus $11 billion in unfrozen assets, plus we're basically sitting there waiting to see if they try to arm the Houthi rebels. What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's a great question, one in which I don't think we can actually truly understand what is going on. You've got 17 different factions from 17 different countries playing 17 different games. We don't know if this is a ploy. We don't know if this is legit. We don't know if this is a game. We don't know if they're trying to somehow, show a little power in their own region. At this point, it's so confusing, and there are so many different variables. We don't know what's going on.
But here comes the great question, because with a coalition sitting there in the water right now, the Iranians, we can, according to international law, when they are in Yemenis waters, we could go on board a vessel, a commercial vessel, not a non-military vessel, if you will, but we would need the agreement of the Yemen government. Well, there's not much of a Yemen government there right now to basically talk to. We're sitting there and have to make the decisions. So the simple thing here is, if they try to cross the blockade, looks like we're going back to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Should we stop, board, and take the chance? McGraw.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think anybody has that answer, and I don't think there's any good answer to it. There are bad decisions all the way around, and it sounds like there's no good decision to be had. I wouldn't necessarily call it the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't think Yemen has any nuclear weapons pointed at the U.S.
Well, no, but we are looking at a blockade again. It basically is the same thing. We're not allowing a certain country to bring weapons into another country. It has some correlation, but you're right. It is non-nuclear at this point.
Yes, but ultimately, when it's all said and done, this is the Middle East, and there are no easy answers, and that's why every president gets sort of caught up in the Middle East, and all the talking heads know the exact same thing to do, except when you're sitting in the Oval Office, whether you're President Bush or President Obama, there are no easy answers.
Yes or no, Ann-Marie, and then I have to move on. If the ships try to pass the blockade line, do we stop and board?
We don't negotiate with terrorists, and we should not give these monsters $50 billion for any reason.
But do you stop and board the vessels?
If they push us far enough, if there's a real viable threat, yeah, we got to protect us.
There you go. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to politics now, Ann-Marie. The Koch brothers, Charles and David, apparently they've decided that they want to spend their money with Scott Walker of Wisconsin. They basically made this idea, if you will, at a fundraising event in Manhattan for the Republican Party. Is that a good idea, and is that pretty much in your mind? Many minds that would say that Scott Walker's got enough money, he's then going to become the Republican nominee.
I was a little bit shocked by this because I would have assumed that the Koch brothers would have backed Rand Paul if he decides to run, and then that's still a possibility, I guess. But of course, because Rand is more libertarian leaning, which they are too. So yeah, I was a little surprised by their support. I'm glad. I want them to support every Republican. So good for them.
McGraw, it's a tough idea here because first of all, the left's going to come right out and say the Koch brothers are going to buy the election and Scott Walker's the guy that they're buying. So you're going to get a whole lot of discussion on that. Scott Walker's going to have to defend himself on this.
Well, who am I to tell a billionaire how to spend his money? If he wants to put it all on one horse to win it all, who am I to say no? But I suspect that the Koch brothers are going to support many different candidates. And yes, I think the Koch money is good. And just like any politician who takes a large chunk of money, both sides of the aisle are going to say, shame on you. How dare you take that money, while they themselves take those big money donations. All
right. Now, here comes the big news when it comes down to politics right now. The new book that's coming out, Clinton Cash, that many people are saying will blow the lid off the Clinton campaign and have the Democratic Party throwing in the towel on 2016 in no time. That wasn't my note, by the way. That came from a couple of different articles I want to point out. So, McGraw, we're now basically faced with a writer who says, I've got the goods. They're basically doing nothing more than influence peddling. But the left is going to say, come on, you guys have been trying to get the Clintons now for years, and you're going to fail again.
Republicans need to be very, very careful. They need to tell the American people what they want to do. They need to stop bashing Hillary at every corner. They need to tell the American people what their plan is for the future. And if they continue to bash Hillary, Hillary's problems will take care of themselves. I can't imagine they've got the goods. They need to worry about themselves and their message and forget about Hillary Clinton.
Okay, then why is it then, McGraw, to you that it seemed that Chris Christie was the only guy over the weekend in New Hampshire who basically got that? He was talking issues, yet every single candidate had a joke to tell about Hillary Clinton, and they believe that it will work. You have to, according to some Republican strategists, you've got to go after her right now. It's the thing to do.
You are 18 months away, and these people who are going to these events, these are the true believers. The true believers are going to vote for whoever wins the nomination anyway. They've got to get the middle. They have to get the right-leaning Democrats, right? The people in the middle. They don't care about Hillary, and they don't hate Hillary the way the ultra-right does. So forget about Hillary. You're going to turn off all of those people who you can get to vote for you. Tell them what you want to do with the country.
Ann-Marie, I have to tell you, that is a really good argument here because many people are saying the country right now is tired and the people who will vote for Mrs. Clinton are going to vote for her anyway. Do you then sit on the side and say, yes, let's go after her, tooth and nail, or do you say back off?
I think I said on your show the first time that Hillary is not going to be the Democrat nominee anyway.
You did.
We're hunting the wrong witch.
You did, but then wait a minute now. If you're going to say that, we have to go back and talk about that once again very briefly. If you don't think Hillary Clinton's going to get it, she's the only one in the race right now. Who else gets it, Ann-Marie?
Watch Senator Jim Webb. He is a former Republican. He's pro-military. He's a veteran. Nobody's even paying attention to anyone else.
But he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the money and the political clout that the Clintons have. How could he get through Hillary's war chest?
He's already got an exploratory committee. No one thought there was going to be a Barack Obama in 2008 either. She was supposed to be the shoo-in then. We're watching the wrong horse in this race. It's not going to be Hillary, or the New York Times wouldn't be bashing her, or anyone wouldn't be bashing her. Nothing would be leaking to the press. I agree that we need to focus on the Republicans, and if we're going to focus on an enemy, she is a non-issue.
All right. We're going to remember that once again. We got it on tape. Ann-Marie Morell, McGraw Milhaven, please stand by just a couple of moments. We're going to come back. Second half of the arena on deck. There is something that is absolutely disastrous happening in American foods, and Ann-Marie's very upset. Plus, The Daily Show, the epilogue, next. The arena rocks on. Turn once again to the CEO and editor-in-chief at Politichicks.com, Ann-Marie Morell, host of the McGraw Show, weekday morning, 6 to 10 a.m. Central Time, KTRS Radio, St. Louis, Missouri, McGraw Milhaven. Short time to go and a long time to get there, folks. Here we go. Let's rock into this. Ann-Marie, you said this was devastating news to you on your Facebook page today, that Kraft is removing the synthetic colors from their iconic macaroni and cheese. Wait a minute, Ann-Marie, this is bad. It is synthetic. It is fake. It's hurtful. Come on, live with it, all right?
It's delicious. It's part of the fun of eating that stuff. It's bright orange and yellow. It's such a fun thing. I love it. And I am so upset with Kraft for giving up to the
But
man.
it's healthier, Ann-Marie. It doesn't have
it
the
isn't.
artificial flavors in it, artificial colors.
I would be dead by now. I promise you. I would be dead by now if there was anything in Kraft macaroni and cheese that could hurt you. Dead.
McGraw,
It
are you one of those two who lived on it at one point in your life?
I will tell you, the day I graduated from college, I was walking down the aisle and I was getting my diploma, and I made one promise to myself that I've kept all these years, and that is I will never, ever eat Kraft macaroni and cheese ever again. I made that promise to myself, and I have kept that promise. I became a macaroni and cheese box while I was in college. That's how much I ate it. But I have kept that one promise to myself. I've never had it since.
Just the visual itself has me a little bit scared. All right, something a little more serious here that we do need to talk about. There is a 93-year-old gentleman who is on trial in Germany. He is a former Auschwitz guard. He said, "It is beyond question that I am morally complicit. The moral guilt I acknowledge here." He's 93 years of age, McGraw. Should they continue to go after him and sentence him and go right down the line?
You know what? It is one of the most horrific acts one man has done to another man, or society has done to mankind. I want to know the facts. I want to know everything he knows. I want him to come clean. I want to find out. I want him to go through trial. I think we owe that to humanity. And so that story is never forgotten.
Ann-Marie, he claims he's morally complicit at this point. So should we then go ahead and adjudicate this to the fullest extent of the law?
Absolutely, yes. It absolutely, without question. It doesn't matter how old someone is or how young. This has to be done. You don't get away with it.
All right, let's go ahead and move on then to something else, which is an interesting story in Kittery, Maine. The officials at Mitchell Primary School have apologized after a book about a transgender child was read to most of the school's K-3 students. It's a book that deals with the struggles of a child with a boy's body and a girl's brain. They have apologized. They said, "We didn't mean this to get read to young children." Ann-Marie, is this a big deal? I mean, should they apologize for this?
Yes, they should. And from what I understand, the parents weren't told in advance that this was
Correct.
going to be read to them. When you consider that the entire human population throughout the entire world, there are between, the statistics aren't perfect, but between 0.1 to 0.5% claim to be transgender. When you consider that it's such a tiny, minute population, they should not be confusing little kids who just a few years ago were in their mother's womb.
Okay, is that it? McGraw, let me get to you. Is that it? Is it a confusion issue here that we're most concerned about for young kids?
No, I think it's more of the parents just don't want to have to answer the question, because quite frankly, a lot of people have a hard time trying to understand why Bruce Jenner is a world-class athlete one day and wants to become a woman the next day. So the school doesn't read the book, and then Friday night we all watch Diane Sawyer interview Bruce Jenner, and that kindergartner or that 3-year-old kid turns to mommy and says, "Mommy, what do they mean by that?" You cannot live in a bubble, and the school probably shouldn't have read the book, but it's not that big of a deal. Transgender is everywhere, all over popular culture. They're going to be exposed to it.
60 seconds left to you first, McGraw. August 6th, last day of The Daily Show by Jon Stewart. The Daily Show epilogue going to go down as good or bad for journalism?
Oh, I think it's probably rewritten journalism in a lot of ways. In the 21st century, journalism isn't like it was back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, or 80s. I think he has brought news to a younger generation, and he's probably changed journalism, good or bad, forever.
20 seconds, Ann-Marie. Changed it, good or bad?
I think that we on the right can learn from The Daily Show, and I think that we need to start taking some of their leads in what they were able to accomplish. And McGraw's right. Reaching young people is what our side really needs to try to focus on.
Have a sense of humor, maybe. Don't hide the facts, and maybe get right to it and stop being so hard on one side and go right down the middle. Gee, it sounds a lot like MidPoint. Ann-Marie Morell and McGraw Milhaven, always a pleasure to have you both on the show. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, at any time.
All right, take care. It is a question of consensual sex between a married couple and rape. But there's a new hitch to this debate: Alzheimer's. We'll focus on that case when we come back right here on the show that is down the middle and questions everything. MidPoint.